Hi everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and what you're seeing here, at least in my humble opinion, is the ultimate C-body. I am very excited about this one. This is a V-Code 1970 Sport Fury GT. This is pretty much my dream car. This is not my car though, working on this for a customer. This is a very special car and I am super excited to work on this. The reason it's so special, the VIN number, which you can't really see because this thing's so dirty. See the V in there? It's a 1970 Plymouth Sport Fury GT. This thing is owned by Dan in West Virginia, and he just gave it to his son Brent, and it was really cool. I did a video on a 1970 Sport Fury GT at McCacken this year. He contacted me asking me a little bit more about the car. He was looking for somebody to do the work to it, and I talked to him, and I was super happy that he gave me the privilege of being able to work on this car. This thing was parked in 1981 in a barn in West Virginia. This is the first time it's been out in 45 years. So not only is this a 1970 Sport Fury GT, it's a V-Code 446 barrel car. It's R6 red, has bucket seat interior with console. This thing is just amazing. And look how clean this interior is. It has 36,000 original miles on it. I mean, yeah, it's got a few dead mice in it. It's kind of a cool Coke can back there. Some other kind of cool stuff too. But look how nice this interior is. Like, all we need to do is clean this up and we're pretty good on it. Like, that's all it's gonna need. And for the moment everybody's waiting for, open the hood to see that beautiful engine. Ooh, 3 2-barrels, love it. 446 barrel motor, 3 2-barrel Hollies. And keep in mind, this car was part of the Plymouth Rapid Transit system. You know, they did a lot of advertising with racing back in the day. You know, had that big brochure with the Duster on it, the GTX, the Roadrunner, and the Barracuda on it, the CUDA. They were all part of the race package they were making back then. So from the numbers I've been able to find, they made 66 V-Code cars in the US, 3 in Canada. There are 13 known VINs and 10 known cars. It was actually kind of cool. We actually found one last year. A good friend of mine, Dale, in South Dakota, actually pulled one out of a wrecking yard back in the day, and we knew it was original 6-pack block because it had a unique piston and the 3-bolt cam on it. The other ones didn't have. And then keep in mind, the regular GTs this year had a 350 horse T-Code motor with log manifolds and dual exhaust. Here's an example of 1970 Sport Fury GT that I own. This is a T-Code 440, again with the dual exhaust. It has log manifolds, but they had a dual snorkel air cleaner, and yeah, they just gave them a little bit more horsepower. I don't know why Plymouth did that. You cannot get a U-Code 375 horse motor in a 1970 Plymouth Fury. I don't know why. The exception is some police package cars got them. But the V-Code, that was the way to go. Also, if you're curious with specs on here, I always thought that the GT had a 360 horse motor because the 350 horse motor had lower compression than this, didn't have dual snorkel, and had single exhaust. So I thought the GT had 10 more horsepower, but according to the data book, it's still 350. If anybody has any more information on that, please post in the comments because I'm really curious about that. Because I always thought the GT had a 360 horse motor, not the 350 horse, but I digress. And of course, here's the 6-pack, 390 horse, 490 foot-pounds of torque, 3 4-barrels, 10.5 compression, you know, dual low restriction exhaust, and then special features on the 6-barrel, windage tray and the oil pan, which is one of the best upgrades you can do to one of these. You keep oil off the crank and it decreases windage. It's basically free horsepower. High lift, high performance, low taper camshaft. Of course, the carburetors, dual point ignition, heavy duty valve springs, chrome flash valve stand, hardened exhaust valve tips, moly filled top rings, and high tension chrome rings. Warranty for the 6-barrel is the same as what applies to cars with a 426 Hemi. And you'll notice on this one, it has the HP manifolds that kind of swoop up there. According to our numbers here, I believe there are 4 known numbers matching Sport Fury GT V-Code cars now. The number could be off, but that's the latest information that we could find. If anybody has any different information, please post in the comments. I'd love to leave the barn find dust on this. It would be really cool to do that, but with all the bird poop and nice crap on it, like, it's just gross. There's a last inspection sticker from 1981 still on the windshield. So the reason why this was parked was because unfortunately it took a little off-road adventure on their farm through a fence. So it does have a little bit of damage. And our goal with this is to do a mechanical restoration on this. We're going to preserve the body as best we can. So for example, the quarter panel extension is broken. We're trying to find an original paint R6 one. We think we've identified one. You can see right here, the bumper is up a little bit. We're going to take it over to our frame shop and put it on its rack and just see how close everything is. And again, we're going to get up on the lift here in a minute and kind of go through that and kind of do some measurements and see what we can find. Has some old school hood pins on it with kind of the bicycle lock type thing. The Ford hood scoop's bad, like really, really bad. I think we're going to have to get rid of that because it's just awful. And they also, you see underneath right here, they actually put speed holes underneath it. 3 2-barrels. I'm trying to kind of figure out how original this is. I'm pretty sure the alternator's been changed out. I need to change the numbers. We looked at the number on the distributor. It actually looks like it's an A12 distributor, but the date code looks right for the car. So I'm not sure if that's right or not. We still need to do some research. Carbs have definitely been gone through. You can see the gasket sticking out there, and then it's got studs and nuts on this side and bolts on the other side. I don't believe that's right. And I haven't checked the numbers on these yet too. Our hope was that we could just get this thing running in the car, but motor's stuck and it's been sitting in a barn dirt floor for just way too long. So we're gonna have to take it out. You know, you can see the upper hose has changed. I think the battery cables are correct on here. And we're gonna be doing several videos on the build here as we pull this out to document this car. There's just no Survivor V-Code Sport Fury GTs out there. So we're gonna use this car as an example. We actually have a couple people who are gonna fly out here just to take videos in reference of this car. Voltage regulator is original, 44th week of 1969, which is correct. What's also really crazy on these is this is an original setup here. So they had a fixed blade fan with no fan shroud and just a 2-core radiator on here, which is just crazy to me. You think they would have put a fan shroud on here, but you couldn't get AC on a 6-pack, so there was no way to get max cooling on these. Another little controversy here is the heat shield. I'm still trying to figure out if this had one or not. I don't see any evidence of one there, but a lot of guys say that they're supposed to have them. I believe on the magazine test car that it had a heat shield on it. I know a lot of people have been asking for a copy of the fender tag, so here you go. Do my decode on it. So E87 is 446-pack motor. Or sorry, 6-barrel. It's a Plymouth. 6-barrel, not 6-pack, 6-barrel. D32 is automatic transmission. P is Plymouth full size. H is high price class. 23 is 2-door hardtop. V is of course the 446-barrel motor. 0 is 1970 the year. D is Belvedere plant. 154863 is the sequence number. All right, R6 is the paint code. E means it started in 1969, the color. Obviously 70. R6 is Scorch red. Really rare color in a 70 Fury. You don't see that very often. H6 is high trim. 6 is bucket seats. XA is charcoal and black interior. TX9 is upper door frame color, which is black. So that looks like they painted see how it's black underneath the door panel there? That's what that means. B07 is production scheduled production date, SPD, which is November 7th. 129482 is the vehicle order number. V1X is black vinyl top, which is actually in pretty good shape. So I realized when editing this thing that I totally left out the A01 code on the fender tag. Oops. So here's the 70 Plymouth data book, which for some reason has a dude dressed up like a zebra behind a Sport Fury GT. Yeah, not sure what to tell you there. These books are really cool. They have a lot of really good information in them. This has like different options that are available with GT, S23. S23 was basically the GT adjacent car. So it had all the stripes and everything, but no engine. You get a 318 or any other engines available, but no 440. So the A01 is light package, which included on the Fury GT, ash receiver light, glove compartment light, cargo light, 2 seat wagons only, standard on 3 seat wagons. Ignition switch and headlamp switch light with time delay. That was 4-door, fender mounted turn signals, and trunk light. A04 is basic or radio group. And then the A04 basic group includes radio, solid state AM. It was upgraded to an 8-track on this one. Power steering, power brakes, remote control mirror left outside, windshield wipers 3-speed, which was standard on the 6-barrel car. So I don't know if you got credit for that, but every 6-barrel car had 3-speed wipers and wheel covers, which of course didn't come on that. Road wheels obviously came with the GT on that. See right here, 3-speed wipers, standard on 446-barrel. Power windows, but not in this one. That must have just been on Chrysler. Includes power steering and deluxe wheel covers. But GT kind of took out all that stuff. So this one actually has an 8-track on it, but it was part of the basic package. You got a discount on that. 852 is the Sport Fury GT package. So if you're curious what came on the GT package, special features to Sport Fury GT is the 440 4-barrel V8 with 350 horsepower, 3-speed torque flight automatic, 323 heavy-duty rear axle. That's the brand gears. Heavy-duty suspension, heavy-duty brakes with sway bar, road wheels with stainless trim ring and bright hub. H7014 wide oval white letter tires. Those are really rare. That was basically just on this and the 300 Hurst. I've always been looking for those wheels, tires. I wish they reproduced them. Reflective stope stripe with full length of body and across rear deck. Special hood tapes treatment. GT block letters on front fenders and rear deck. Sill moldings, rocker moldings, and bright exhaust tips, which are super, super rare. My GT actually has those. They're missing on this one after I went into the ditch. Here's what the original exhaust tip looks like from my silver GT here. They're actually kind of a unique design. So they basically, the head on them is basically a Challenger tip, then they have a long pipe on it. And this should not be welded on, it should be slipped on. But these were obviously welded at some point, but I'm really glad I have the tips for this car. For the red GT, I think we're gonna have a set made. You can take reproduction Challenger ones and then weld on them to make them work. And I think that's what we're gonna do. We may make a couple sets. They also have a very unique hanger on them, which luckily the exhaust tip hangers are on the car, but the exhaust tips are missing. But yeah, if anybody knows where any 1970 Sport Fury GT exhaust tips are, give us a call. We need a set for the car. And if you're curious, the S23 is kind of the same thing, just, you know, 318 and other standard V8s and smaller tires. C16 is console, C55 is bucket seats, L31 is fender turn signals. As you can see, they're actually really cool on this. They're an inset in the hood. These have the bulge hood with the 440 emblem on it too. There's a little bit controversy on this too. Some of these had 440 plus 6 stickers on them. There's been a couple of them, but I think those are only at the Newark plant. They haven't seen any from Belvedere yet. So this one definitely had emblems. It's definitely original. And the GT had the sport stripes on the hood too. M25 is the sill molding. M31 is body belt moldings. So the sill moldings are down there. They're kind of hard to find GT. And the body belt moldings are up here right there. M85 is bumper guards, which is optional. You don't see them very often on these either. But front and rear rubber bumper guards. R22 is 8-track radio. VO1 is single tone paint. So if I had like, you know, a black painted top, it'd be VO2. YL5 is built for US specifications. Y14 is sold car, which means it was ordered by the dealer. And END is end of codes. And there's a little inspection tag right there. And a little 7 right there on the tag too, which is very cool. These originally had second up pumps. I believe the cap's been changed at some point. I believe that should be a metal cap on that. I think it has original battery cables here, but they've been changed. So the ground strap should be over here. And that's supposed to be right there. It's kind of funny. They kind of missed that when they put that together. There's a lot of detailing we got to do on here. These also have idle solenoids. This still has the original idle solenoid with the wiring harness. Looks like it has the original wiring harness on it too. All the cables have been, the spark plug leads are all wrong. They're just routed incorrectly. You know, that thing right there is on the power steering pump. That's supposed to be on the exhaust manifold there, but that's all stuff we're gonna do. We're gonna have to pull this motor again. I really had hopes and dreams of being able to get this thing running as is, but that's just not a realistic expectation. This thing has the original master cylinder. We'll send that off to get restored and put the original one back on. Original booster on there. Again, it looks pretty rough, but we'll get that fixed too. That's the original nipple on there. It's got 2 nipples on it for the vacuum for the brake booster with the original clamp on there. It has original PCV valve on it, the 3 nipple one. So it's got 3 little things on it. It was painted with the motor, so that's engine color. That overflow bottle's not original, unfortunately. Looks like all the exhaust has been off this too. And of course it's not AC. Couldn't get AC on a 6-pack. 6-barrel. 6-pack, 6-barrel. Anybody want a rare West Virginia dead mouse skeleton? I can hook you up. There's the trim ring that's missing over here. I don't know why that fell off, but at least we got it. Fortunately, the middle of the cap came off this. These are pretty hard to find caps to find, actually. These were 70, 71, maybe just 72, but they're not real common. They used the road wheel all the way through the 70s, but they went to a different style that had like a chrome kind of polished cap on it. Another little kind of controversy on this that we've been trying to figure out is, so no one's ever seen the stripe below here right now. And I'm kind of wondering if this car's original paint or not. That's one thing we're going to look into, but we pretty much have to get it cleaned up first. Like there's really no way to tell. But you can see right here, so if you see on the stripe, it's supposed to go down the body line. See how it dives down? So I don't know if that's factory or not. I don't know if they would have accepted that at the factory for an install. I really don't know if they're going to get away with that or not. So if it's original, it's a example of factory shitty. If it's aftermarket, then I just didn't put it on right. Another kind of cool part about the Sport Fury is they actually got their own unique side markers. It was a much smaller side marker on a non-Sport Fury, basically the same as a Cuda side marker. And on the back, it's pretty much the same as well. So right here, it's basically the same as an E-body Barracuda on that. Obviously, it's got a little damage on the fender over here. Took out the wheel lip molding and some dent. So I'm not sure what we're going to try to do. If we can find an original paint fender, we'll try to do it. Otherwise, we'll probably just try to bang the dents out and basically do the best we can here. These, of course, have hideaway headlights. Got the Sport Fury emblem right there. And then there's a electric motor in the middle there. There's actually a wheel on it, so you can manually open them. I don't know if that was a old car alarm or a speaker or what. It goes inside there. I think there's a really cool CB in it too. Not much in the glove box. It's always fun to see what's in there. Yeah, it's got a Tram CB on it. Pretty sure that's gonna stay in there. That's part of the history of the car. Anything on the console? Come on, open. It doesn't want to open. And of course, a little clasp with the wood grain on the door panel, Sport Fury. This is kind of cool too. So they actually had a little foil with the 3 colors back there. Those are always fall off. They're always missing on these. Really hard to find. And the GT, of course, goes all around the back here. These finish panels are kind of neat too. So these are made out of aluminum. Really, really hard to find. So apparently a running change through the year. The non-GTs had screws through them in the later cars. This one doesn't have screws. It's a lot harder to find. And of course, the bumper guard's back there. The tank's seen some better days. All right. Well, I'm gonna let Trev loose on this thing to get it cleaned up. He was crawling over this for like an hour after it got delivered on Monday and had respiratory issues the day before. So it's time to demouse this thing, de-bird poop this thing, and see how she looks afterwards. Here's the air cleaner lid for it. It's kind of interesting. They actually put a part of a white GT stripe on there. Trev was saying like every NOS kit he's ever seen always came with a little extra. I'm not sure why. So he was thinking maybe they had a little extra at the dealership or something and just threw it on there. And I'm not sure if this is supposed to have a sticker or not. That's, again, one of those things that's not really known. I mean, this sure looks like the original air cleaner to me, and I don't see any evidence there was a sticker on it. It would say 6 barrel on it with like flags. And there's the base, and there's 2 types of these. There's ones with a shield, so any non-fresh air car would have that big shield on it. Any fresh air car, so like an air grabber on a Roadrunner, they wouldn't have the shield because they didn't need it to block air coming in the back. Looks like they drilled those out down there. There's a few speed holes on this car. Long-awaited bath. Need it. You gotta be very careful with the pressure washer. You don't want to knock the original stripes off. It's amazing how much a little wash can make a big difference. So one thing I did see is, yeah, the red overspray there. So the quarter panel's definitely been done at some point. I said I'd get my paint meter on it, but yeah, it looks pretty good. I said the torsion bar is broken, so we're gonna have to find another one. I don't know if I have another 440 torsion bar, but I've got a 360 torsion bar out of a 71, so we put that in temporarily just so it's, you know, sitting at the right height. But yeah, definitely looks better. Trev's removing the scoop. None of us can stand looking at it anymore. It needs to come off.
It does. It's horrible.
They just put studs through with like Part Star hardware, so
show them that.
Hopefully they come off. And then yeah, the speed holes underneath are a nice touch too. Look at the elk up on my hill. Got it moved to the other side of the shop on the lift, and we're gonna get it up and see how she looks underneath. And we got a spiral fracture of the torsion bar. That's why it was sitting down on the one side. Torsion bar actually came out pretty easy. Luckily Trev had a couple 360 ones. This is not the right size torsion bar, but for now we just want to put a bar in there so the thing, you know, torsions up. We'll find a correct bar later to put in. All right, Trev's starting to work on the interior here because we got to get this demoused. It's gross. So he's got the screws off. Let's do the big reveal. See if there's a broadcast sheet in here, because a lot of times they hide them underneath the rear seats. Or sorry, front seat. Well, rear seat, front seat. It's one of the common spots.
Dude.
Is that a broadcast sheet?
Awesome.
Looks like the mice got to it a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna really carefully pull this out. I can't do this while I'm filming because I don't want to rip it.
Hold on. Oh, you want to do it?
Well, go ahead, Trev. Just be really, really careful, obviously.
Done this once or twice.
Yeah. Well, it can be pinched on the seat spring. Ooh. Wow. This is like Raiders of the Lost Ark right here. Is it right for the car? That's the next question. Because it's real common on these to have them put in the wrong car. It's right.
Is it?
Yes, it's right. It says BS on it. What does BS mean, Trev? Wow, broadcast sheet. How good? How cool is that? Okay, I'm gonna go back and do a decode of this later, but I am super stoked that we found a broadcast sheet in this thing. How cool is that? Maybe there'll be more. Okay, so now we're gonna try this side, see if we can be 2 for 2. Just for the record, that was cracked when we started. All right, let's see what we got, Trev. We're gonna go for 2 for 2 here. Cross your fingers.
Nope.
Nope. That's not unusual. Usually there was one broadcast sheet in the seat department and ended up in one of the seats, not both.
Yeah.
But we'll check the back seat too, because a lot of times you see them in the back seat too. No mouse nest in there. That's nice. It's the one spot of the car that doesn't have a mouse nest.
It kind of does.
Does it?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, never mind. Ignore what I just said. So we just couldn't deal with it anymore. We had to take the scoop off. It was so bad. You know, I thought this was a Ford scoop, but I don't see any kind of part number on it. So maybe it was JC Whitney. I don't know. If anybody knows what this came off of, I'm genuinely curious. So apparently the story goes on this is somebody put a carb stud on it that was too long and it punched like a dent up in the hood. So their solution was to put a hood scoop on it, which I'm shaking my head at the moment. They also like kind of blacked out underneath the hood so you can't see black, so you couldn't see body color in there. Here, I'll show you what it looked like when we started versus when we end. Trev took this off yesterday and spent a bunch of time getting like Rust-Oleum paint off of it. It was pretty bad. The beer tab on the antenna is a nice touch. I like it. Trev left these cookies on the toolbox. He knows my kryptonite, Costco cookies. C is for cookie, and that's good enough for me. Nom, 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 nom. I swear, every time I walk past this car and see this West Virginia license plate, I start chanting the John Denver, West Virginia song. It's been stuck on my head for the entire week the car's been here. I need to like take this license plate off so it stops happening to me. And now it's stuck in all your heads. West Virginia, County Mama. Yeah, you're welcome. Another small detail I wanted to point out on this is apparently these are super rare. So there's a little piece of trim there on either side of the grill. They have it over there too. And they're just glued on. Apparently those always fell off. There's actually a Mopar part number for it, but they're basically made out of unobtainium now because they always fell off. But it's kind of cool this car has it. It shows you that, you know, it didn't get a lot of road miles because it's actually still on there. A few more under hood details I wanted to show you while we're here. Of course, this has the HP manifolds. The regular GT got logs. The logs basically go straight back. The HPs kind of swoop up. These actually have a unique manifold on the driver's side. So 2 things to note about this. So see those big fins on there? That was for the pre-ignition heat stove. So there's supposed to be like a big cover that goes over that goes up to the air cleaner. And then there's a hose that goes to the air cleaner because that exhaust heated up really, really fast. Then it would send warm air to the air cleaner. So that's true for any 440 HP car. But on a 6-pack car, sorry, 6-barrel, I'm gonna keep on doing that. There's no way to do that on that air cleaner. So it's basically just exposed. But it is super hard to find these manifolds. They are 440 HP only on C bodies. On a 383 car, they got a manifold that had the same fins on it, but it's only a 2.25 inch opening. On these, it's a 2.5 inch opening. And again, it's 440 HP C body only. They just didn't make that many of those cars. So something we've been kind of tap dancing around a little bit is whether this car is original paint or not, because that actually determines a lot of what we do with this car. The goal is not to do a complete restoration on this. So the goal is to preserve this as best we can. But there's certain things that we're gonna be able to save and not save on it. And I'm gonna make a lot more effort on certain areas of the car if it's original paint. I do not wanna ruin any of the history on this car or any of the original paint. I think this car carries a story with how it is, and that's how I really believe that this car should be done. What this is a paint gauge. Basically, you put it against, and it tells you the thickness of the paint. So on original paint cars, it should be between 2 and 3 mils, basically. So that's 3.8 there. That's a little bit thicker than we like to see. 3.9, 3.8. I've seen original paint up to 4 before. 3.5 is a little closer to what we want. 4.2, There might have been a little touch up there. I showed you earlier in the video, there's overspray over here. So I know over here it is not original paint. So let's see what it says. Yeah, 16, that's way too thick. That means there's some body filler there. 51, 15, 15. So yeah, there's been some work here. And you can just tell right here, you know, where the paint's flaking off there and there. Original paint just doesn't do that. If it was original paint, it just acts differently. So that's 5, so that's part of the repaint too. So my guess is this whole quarter panel has been repainted. Okay, let's check out the other side here. 3.4. I mean, that's within the range. I know I said 2 to 3 before, but pretty much anything close to 4 is probably okay. 3.7, 3.2, 3.8. So I'm pretty sure this is original paint over here, but you always want to hit the areas that are really rust prone. So the edge of the quarters, 2.6, that's perfect. So this is absolutely original paint over here, 3.1. I mean, basically any repaint, they're going to do body work and have thicker primer than what they use at the factory. This looks like all original paint over here. That's excellent. Okay, there is some accident damage over here. You can see on the quarter panel right there, there's a couple dents. 2.9, that looks good. 2.2, that looks good. And see, it looks like there's been some work there. Yeah, so 39, 21. So this whole door has been fixed at some point. I kind of wonder if it got hit there and there maybe. I'm not sure. And again, I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do with this information right now. We haven't made some decisions on some of the body work, but we're just trying to get more of the story here. So we always check the lower fenders as well. What's a real known rust spot on these? 2.9, 2.9, 3.7. You always wanna make sure this is square with the fender, the piece of metal that you're doing. 2.7. So I think the fender's original paint. 1.4, that's almost too low. 2.1, okay. So the big question is the hood original, because if this is not an original paint hood, I'm not fixing this stuff. We're just gonna get another hood and paint it. But if it's original paint, there's at least an argument for fixing this. So though, that's a lot of welds and it's very thin metal on the hood. 4.1, 3.9, 4.0. I think that might be original paint. I mean, this is obviously had some repair work done up here at some point. That is not original up there. 5.9, so yeah, it's had a repair up here. So I think maybe it was repaired up here at some point. 4.8, 4.8. So some of it's original paint, some of it's not. And I don't know, I think maybe we just have to replace that hood because that's gonna be really, really hard to fix. 4.3, 2.8, 2.9, 3.1, 3.2. Looks like this fender's original paint. Fortunately, this is the one that's really damaged and the one that would be really nice to preserve. 3.6, 2.9. Again, you want to get the lower doors where the rust is. If they rust, 3.9, 4.4. That's a little thicker than I like. 2.3, 3.5. So yeah. So it looks like we do have a lot of original paint on this car. Looks like it had a repair in the door on the driver's side and on the quarter panel, but I think the rest of it's original paint according to my paint gauge. I think I forgot to mention this before, but that steering wheel is really, really rare. Those are very unusual to find. That's called a rim blow steering wheel. So they actually have a switch on the bottom there that you just squeeze it to do the horn, and then the middle works as a horn too. My 1972 gold Dodge Polara ex-Washington State Patrol car, they actually use the steering wheel too. Most of them you see are on C bodies, and the tilt wheel had a different one, so it's pretty rare to see these. So in our videos, we don't really sugarcoat stuff. I want to show you what's really going on with this car. So as you can see right here, when it went off, it hit the gas tank and kind of pushed up this whole area here. So I'm hoping my body guy can pull that out. So when you get the valance off, get the bumper off, it really looks like what it's, look what it sees down there. It actually has the original, I mentioned this before, but it actually has the original exhaust tip hangers. In fact, there's the tips. I kind of wish they would have held on to that, but I think they threw the tips away. Again, those are super duper hard to find. This thing was extremely undercoated, which is great. It actually really helped preserve the car. This thing would be really, really rusty if it didn't have that. It was also Zybarted from the factory. Well, I guess not the factory, from probably the dealer or the guy who owned it before. You can see down here, it's not rusty. I mean, that's just kind of crusty undercoating coming off. I don't really think there's any rust down there. But as I said, we got to get through with a pick and make sure there's no soft spots. Frame rails look awesome. I mean, everything's just crusty down here, and that's not super surprising. It's got helper shocks, which I hate because those end up putting too much pressure on the shock cross member there, and they end up usually cracking it. The fuel line's definitely been changed. The gas tank's definitely been out. There shouldn't be rubber pads there for the straps. So for some reason, the gas tank was out at some point, and then they built their own fuel line too, which again, very strange. I don't know if they were, maybe 3/8 line. I'm looking at it because it's kind of big. Maybe they're trying to go for big lines, but there's actually a controversy on these, you know, because every 446 pack and Hemi car on a B body or an E body got 3/8 line with a return. And from what I've read research and what people have figured out, that they didn't have a 3/8 line for these. They just used 5/16 line on it, which I think is kind of interesting. Definitely some spots there we got to look at. A little bit of rust in the floor pan there, which is kind of a bummer. I really was hoping the floor pans would be good, but we may have to do some patches on that. You can see right there, there's definitely some crust. That's not super bad rust there. That's not through. We tested that, but there's definitely some stuff in the floor there. In fact, and that's all rodent. So that's underneath the rear seat, which we haven't pulled out yet, but you can see the mouse nest in there right now. That's all from mouse pee. It's very acidic and it eats away metal. That's not from the moisture, that's just from the mice. Nice and greasy under here, which honestly is a good thing. It helped preserve stuff. We got to pull the seats out. We've been working on these nuts and bolts for an extremely long time. These are the seat studs that go through the floor there. It is really, really easy to break those off. We're taking our time doing that. Trev already has a significant amount of time cleaning the threads, stripping the threads, but the nuts are kind of stuck against the floor pan, so we're gonna have to figure that out. You can see how crusty the yoke is there. We'll definitely have to change that. The drive shaft doesn't look so hot either. We'll see if that's savable or not. We're gonna have to, you know, get that blasted and see what it looks like. But I have a feeling it's gonna be really, really bad. Another little interesting little detail, nerd detail. Trev actually put a note on there for us before, but the 323 tags on there, that's the rear ratio gear. It's actually on backwards in the factory, which is interesting. Here's some lines on there. I'm sure that's original brake hose. I would be shocked if that was been replaced with this low miles. So though, there's a lot of stuff that I've been monkeyed with on this car. So I wanted to see if the tranny is original. See right here, all the leaking tranny fluid saved the pan. On this side, not so much. So there is no VIN tag on the transmission. There should be a raised pad right there on the transmission, and it is not there. That means it is a 68 and before transmission. Also, little details I always look for. See how the gasket's sticking out there? This has absolutely been rebuilt at some point. So no matter what, this is not the original transmission. So there's a part number on this side. Let's see if we can see it. It is 2801844. That actually means it is a Hemi transmission, which is interesting. The stampings on the back look kind of weird. I'm not sure what those are, but that number is a 1967 or 1968 Hemi transmission, which is interesting because that's actually a really valuable, really hard to find transmission. So this transmission is actually worth several $1,000s, but obviously I'd rather have the original here. But yeah, so we're on the lookout. If anybody knows of a 1970 446 barrel, 446 pack transmission, that is a unique number, and we would love to find one if anybody knows where one is. Floor pans look pretty solid up here. Frame rails look good. This is the front stub right here. Kind of interesting. So see those tabs right there? Those are the tabs right there. Those are the alignment tabs. So when they drop the body on there, they had to line those up, and that told them that the car was lined up correctly. See, right there too. Kind of neat little piece there. Tranny's crusty. Oil pan's got a big old dent in it. That's too bad. It's not a super hard to find pan. It's a, I believe that should be a 187 pan. There's a ton of grease on there, which I'm not going to try to get off right now. See, we've already put a new torsion bar in. That one was cracked. That's a 360 bar, so it's slightly smaller than a 440 bar, which if it was driving down the road, we wouldn't do that. But in this case, you know, we're just trying to make sure it doesn't fall over, basically. Original tranny mount still there. It's definitely seen better days. All right, let's see if this thing's number's matching or not. So here's the VIN number. So it's on the passenger side, just above the oil pan. Number on there is OD154863. It is a numbers matching motor. Very, very cool. And then here is the casting number and casting date over here. Casting date looks like 7/26/69, I think. It's really hard to read. I'm not gonna grab the scraper right now, but that sounds about right. So this is a November build car, or at least it was scheduled in November. And then the engine assembly date is 10/8. So yeah, that makes sense. So 2-3 months after the engine was cast, it was put together, and then it was put together a month before the car was built. That all sounds about right. I mean, everything's a little bit crusty underneath here. You know, there's always been a little debate on whether these should have windage trays or not. And, you know, look right there, you can see the corner of the metal sticking out there. There's the windage tray, so I absolutely had that. Unfortunately, I think the fuel pump's been changed, which is really a bummer. Those are really, really hard to find fuel pumps. And I'm pretty sure it should be a 5/16 Carter. I think the alternator's been done. Fortunately, that lower pulley's seen better days. That may or may not be savable. See the unique weight on the lower balancer there? That means it's the heavy rod motor. Any 70 HP or 6-pack, 70, 71, you use those heavy weights. In fact, they use this all the way through 72. My 72 Polara has that. So they had heavy rods. They called 6-pack rods, which is kind of a misnomer, but that's kind of what they call them. A little bit of accident damage up here. You can see the course, the stub has been a little bent there. The sway bar's bent too. You can see that's real common on these. And honestly, sometimes it's just a tow truck. If somebody tried to tow it by the sway bar, I've seen those bent just from that. And honestly, that's probably even more likely than accident damage on here. See the valence got, it's seen better days, but there's no catastrophic damage down here. Nothing is scaring me, but it's stuff we gotta get fixed, obviously. As I said, we haven't quite decided how deep we're gonna get in this thing now. We're not gonna do a full restoration, but all this front suspension can come apart, get blasted, get cleaned up, and put back together because, all the bushings, even if they don't have that many miles on them, the rubber's 50 years old now. They're just not going to survive anymore. But you can see right here, the strut rod has the original pin on there. So if these have ever been done, everybody just puts cotter pins in. They don't put those back in, but the strut rod's never been out of this car. I don't think those cotter pins are right on the tie rods though, so I think that's been replaced before. Yeah, steering box leaks. Good to know. So I know some of you probably laughed at me when I was so excited that we found the broadcast sheet, but the reason I get so excited is you can verify stuff on the car. So for example, this has door edge moldings right here. Those are factory. That's on the broadcast sheet. And I can tell those are original because we have the broadcast sheet. If I didn't have the broadcast sheet, we wouldn't be able to tell. Also, I was just talking to my buddy Dan Pausch about this. He's very knowledgeable about this stuff, and he's pretty sure the floor mats are factory too. They're on the broadcast sheet. And I mean, I just would have thought those were kind of, cheap aftermarket floor mats, but they're actually original to the car. So now we're going to save those, preserve them, and put them back in the car. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap this video up now. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. It was really fun making this video. It's going to be really fun tearing in this car. There's definitely going to be more videos on this car. And the thing I really want to emphasize on this is I really want to share the knowledge with everybody out there. So we're gonna document every step of this car. If anybody wants any detailed pictures about this car, anywhere that they need more information, I am glad to help, glad to take pictures. This car is gonna stay together for probably another week or two. Then we're gonna start tearing it apart, and we're gonna document everything on this car because there just aren't any original cars out there for reference. They just don't exist. There's only 4 with the original engines out there. And I really want this car to show and help people to try to put their cars together. And I've talked to the owner of the car, and basically what we're gonna do is do as much as we can to preserve the car. We're gonna fix some stuff. We're probably gonna paint some balances, but we're gonna try to find original paint ones to preserve the originality of this car. We're gonna go front to back, restoration, mechanical restoration on it. We may have to fix some of the floor pan rust. We'll see how bad it is once we get the seats out and the carpet out, but we're gonna try to preserve as much as we can on this car while we put it together. That's the goal. Because this car has personality right now. You do a full restoration on this, great. It's gonna look fantastic. Everyone's gonna love it at shows. It's probably gonna win a bunch of awards. But to me, like finding a find like this that's been together, been off the map for almost 50 years is just super, super cool to me. This car has an amazing story. It's staying in the family, and I just absolutely love that. And it's an honor and a privilege to work on this thing. I just want to give a shout out at the end of the video to Billy Fury. He helped me out with this project. He talked to the owner. The owner wanted some references for our work at Rocket Restorations, and Bill talked to him as a fellow 6-pack Fury GT owner. He's the one who got this car in the shop, and I really appreciate this, Bill. I really, really do. And just want to give another shout out to the owners, Deanne and Brent. I really appreciate you letting me work on this car. I'm super excited about it. I know this video is going to be pretty popular. If you guys don't watch my channel on a regular basis, we really appreciate everybody subscribing to me and putting a like on the video. I don't usually put that on the end, but I think this one's going to do pretty well. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to do a lot of documentation over the next week or two. And once we start pulling this thing out, we'll do more videos on it, and we're going to document everything on YouTube. So if you guys have any comments, have any input on this thing, we'd love to hear from you. This is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon.